Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. I am, of course, your host, Matthew Zator, and I'm joined in by my co-hosts, Peter Baracchini and Greg Boysen. How are you guys doing this week?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. A bunch of couple of news have come out. The Olympics have kind of drawn to a close here. Women's hockey's done. Canada won gold over the US, which I'm really happy about. And and then the Olympics are wrapping up for the men's side as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, let's jump. Before we jump in, just wanted to say this week's show is brought to you by the Morning Skate, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday, jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet's daily dose of latest news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, just a little hockey fun and information brought to you every day by the Hockey Writers. You'll see a link in the show description. Sign up for that newsletter. It's great. Lots of great stuff there. So yeah, just sign up and you won't regret it for sure. So let's jump into this show. We're going to start with some news that came out in the last few days here is the fact that the World Juniors are being rescheduled. We said that they probably would be, and that would be in the summer. And that's in fact what's going to be happening. It's going to be in August, just after the Hlinka Gretzky tournament, yes, which is a great tournament that's happening in the summer. So it's going to get right after that. I'm glad it's not before because it would take the focus off them because they deserve that focus as well, the media stuff and all that. So they're going to be afterwards. So yeah, let's jump into this. You know, one thing that came out of it was that the country's going to be able to choose new rosters. Peter, we'll start with you on this. Do you think it's unfair that they're able to do this? You know, pick different guys, guys that may have been named to the team and all of a sudden, sorry, you're not on the team now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, initially that was my first guess, 23, 24, 25 man roster, all these players get selected and then now they have an opportunity to try and reselect players that maybe didn't get a chance. And on one hand, it's great for the players that didn't make it. So for example, Brandon Clark, Brandon Othman on Team Canada had a chance, got overlooked, and now they have an opportunity. But to take away from another player that deserved it and it was already named, it just didn't seem right. But Tony Ferrari from the Hockey News brought up a really great point saying that, you have established players potentially making the jump like Owen Power, Jake Sanderson, Matty Beniers, Mason McTavish. All these players are going to be pushing for an NHL roster spot that's next season in August, and it's a really short turnaround for them. Do they risk getting injured or do they set their mind on the NHL? But again, for some of these players, this is the last opportunity for them to try and, win a World Junior gold. This is the highlight of their junior career. So it's going to be interesting to see how that'll play out. If they have to replace a player like Shane Wright, McTavish, Sanderson, all these players, so be it. Obviously, you want to bring in a roster player or a player that, deserves to be on the team. I mean, it's only fair when you take a player out, you replace them. But at the same time, if they're just doing it to say, we didn't like this player, I don't think that they would do that, but it would just seem wrong if they did.
Yeah, I agree with that. And another thing they're doing is they're resetting the tournament. So they're not any of the results that were part of the beginning of before it was postponed. Those don't matter. It's like that those are like exhibition games. So none of the results are going to become part of the record as being part of this. So any of the wins won't matter at all. So I thought that's probably what would happen as well.
I'm still going to include Connor Bedard's 4-goal game. I don't care.
Yes. Nope. Yes. That would be something I'd probably
never happened.
He's just gonna have to do a better job in the tournament.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm sure he'll get another one. It won't.
Yeah,
be that bad.
I think he'll be okay. You know.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure next time he meets Latvia, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, for sure. Same thing with Owen Power there too. So, so Greg, I want to ask you on this. It's being, like I said, it's scheduled in August, which is after the NHL draft, the 2022 draft. Are you surprised that they schedule it after the draft rather than tried to get it before? Because I mean, usually this is a tournament that kind of gets more spotlight on the the first round picks. Now they're going to be drafted. They're going to be part of NHL teams, part of their pipeline. Is that a surprise to you, or I mean, it's just better to be in August rather than trying to fit it in before the draft?
It's not really a surprise when you just think about all the logistics that got to go into something like this. Sure, I'm sure they would have loved to do it before, but there really is such a tiny window in between the end of the season and the actual draft. And
that's true. Yeah.
You don't even know about, building availability come June or July, Edmonton is the host. I don't know. Are they still sticking to Red Deer? I thought I read something where they might do Edmonton and Calgary. So those are two NHL buildings that you don't know if they're going to be available in late June at this point. Probably, but you don't know, and you can't schedule something and say, whoops, the Stanley Cup final is coming here. So sorry, kids, beat it. So there's a ton of factors that go into it. You just can't try and do something like this and say, we want to do it this weekend, make it happen. So it's not that big of a surprise. Plus, you gotta think those scouting teams of the NHL are super busy during the month of June and early July. Like, they got a lot of other things on their plate. And I think, the guys that are going to be playing for this in this tournament, like, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference in the draft for a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys are the top prospects. We know they're first round picks or second round picks. Now, there's going to be a few guys from some of these lesser powerhouse countries that could make an impression and really make a leap forward, but not enough of those happen every year where it's detrimental that you got to have it before the draft. I think the homework's been done on this draft class at this point. So it's not going to make that much of a difference overall. The interesting thing is you're going to have this tournament in August, which is great. I know I speak for all of us here as hockey writers. It's selfish because we're going to have something to write about in August when that's usually the deadest of the dead months for our profession. So stuff to talk about in August is fantastic. It's just going to be kind of funny if they're going to do it in August and then go right back to the normally scheduled one 3 months later. And we're going to have two World Junior tournaments in 3 months. That's pretty crazy. I love it. I mean, I wish we could have one of these every month, just cancel the junior leagues altogether and say, let's just do this constantly. But I'm thrilled for a lot of reasons as a fan, as a writer, and for these kids. They get their chance to do something that was taken away from them. And it means a lot. I think, the right call was made back in December, and now they're going to make it right. And hopefully we have a great tournament. And, that's all that matters. It's these kids getting that chance. Some of these guys, this is going to be the highlight of their career. This is going to be the last chance they get to really make a difference in their career. It's going to be something they're going to be telling their grandkids about long time from now. I know talking to guys in the AHL and coaches in the AHL, man, this is all they talk about. It's they might be pro players now, but man, winning a medal for your country at the World Juniors, outside of a Stanley Cup, it's one of the biggest accomplishments you can have as a player. So I'm happy that these kids are going to get a chance to do their thing on the biggest stage for their level.
Yeah, like I say, I was happy that they rescheduled it, and I mean, everyone was saying it probably would anyway. We're gonna get 2 jam-packed months of we got the draft in July and then right to the World Juniors, which we got half the work done at the Hockey Writers here already. So we have to update those roster pieces, but that's it. Have a few more features. Maybe we'll get some feature articles out. We usually wouldn't, so that's gonna be great. Before let's talk about this last thing before we move on from the World Juniors here. Is, moving on, there's players that are going to be playing a lot before this August. They're going to be drafted. Some of them be drafted, playing out a season, playoffs, whatever that is. Is there going to be a country that's going to be stronger in August than they were in December? Peter, we'll start with you. Is there any country you think?
I had them pegged as a team that's going to make some noise and be a really, really massive thorn in a lot of teams' sides is Slovakia. And I'm not going to get too much into that because I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about one more or a specific player after this as a quick roundtable kind of thing. But yeah, my pick is going to be Slovakia.
Greg, you got Slovakia or is someone else?
Well, definitely Slovakia is a pick to really be. They got some kids that have really gotten some confidence here in the last few days on that stage, and a team that I might, I think there will be teams that can get stronger. There's going to be teams that may get weaker. We won't know until these rosters come out. I think a team possibly may be stronger based on what happened in their first game. Maybe watch out for Czechia if they can get David Juracek back.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what his timeline is. It's hard to kind of find, not a lot of information. They said several months. Well, August is several months after December. So if they can get him back in the lineup, that team is obviously a lot stronger than they would have been had the original tournament gone through as planned.
Yeah, I agree with that. Czech is an interesting pick for that. I mean, Juracek, if he's back, that's a big boost to their team. That was a huge loss for him when he got hurt. So yeah, Peter alluded to it a bit here. Speaking of international tournaments, the Olympics just are wrapping up here. We said Slovakia. They won a bronze medal. First medal at the Olympics. Great for them. And who was leading the charge? 17-year-old Juraj Slafkovsky. This guy's not drafted yet. Like I said, 17. He had 7 goals in 7 games. He tied an under-18 record. I mean, this guy was amazing throughout the Olympics and hit their best player by far. He was already kind of in a top 10. I had him in my top 10. Let's do a quick roundtable here. Has he boosted his stock enough to talk competing with Shane Wright for first overall? Peter, what do you think?
And again, I was really happy because, me being part Slovak on my side of the family, seeing Slafkovsky score at an incredible rate. And you just mentioned it, goal per game rate, tied that U18 mark of, all time at the Olympics is absolutely phenomenal for Slafkovsky. And is it enough to boost his draft stock? I mean, the easy answer is yes. There's no doubt that he boosted his draft stock. Is it enough to compete for Shane Wright? I don't know. I think it's still a battle between him and Cooley. I mean, whenever you have 2 elite, competitive, smart centermen in Wright and Cooley, I think you got to go for the centerman at this point. They're always going to be strong, durable, and effective wingers as we've seen in the past. And Slafkovsky's definitely moved up into my top 5. I'm going to spoil that right now. I had him at 7th. I mean, he just moved up 2 spots, but he's going to be in my top 5. And, sad to say, someone is getting dropped out of there. Just on this tournament alone, you saw his size, you saw his shot, his strength, his ability to read the play. Couple of mistakes here and there, but then again, he's 17. You're bound to see that at a senior tournament. He just looked absolutely fantastic, and he was a major reason why Slovakia won bronze. And yeah, it definitely improved his draft stock, no doubt.
Yeah, Slafkovsky's been amazing. Greg, what do you think about Slafkovsky? Has he gotten into that first overall conversation?
I think he can be added to the conversation, but as Peter said, you got to go with the centerman. I mean, you build through at center and work your way out. But he definitely can be in the discussion. He's a fantastic player. I mean, if you've watched or listened to any of our shows over the past few weeks, we're all big fans. No surprise here. We're all on the bandwagon. I definitely think can be considered for that second or third pick, depending on who gets it. You watch his game. And he's got that size and that shot, automatically you watch him. And the first guys that come to my mind are like an Alex Ovechkin or an Austin Matthews. He's in that kind of mode. Big kid, sniper, can score from anywhere on the ice, can do it all. When he, when his cerebral part of the game catches up to his just pure raw talent, you're talking a superstar, a franchise type player. Whoever you're going to get this kid is they're gonna head in the right direction. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he's number one overall. For those same reasons Peter said, you got to get that center to really solidify. Let's just look at all the Stanley Cup champions in the past, however long you want to go. They had the depth down the middle. So not number one overall, but going to be the first winger taken. I have no doubt about that. So maybe that's a little consolation. First winger drafted.
There we
go. Slovakia is usually not a country that's very big in the draft, first round, top 10 type. So, I mean, this is great having two guys. Simon Nemec was really great, really good in the Olympics as well. So I echo that with Slafkovsky. I think he's a guy is going to now be in that you could take him 2 or 3 for sure. But yeah, I agree. Shane Wright is probably still number one. I mean, he's a centerman. You build around that. You need be strong down the middle in the NHL, and wingers, there are plenty. I mean, there's so many great wingers in the NHL, but you build through that center ice position. And so, I mean, yeah, but he's sure bumped his stuff up. That's a definite top 3 for me. I mean, I had him at 6, I believe. So he's jumping, that's for sure. So yeah, that's the international side. We're going to get into our meat of the show after a little bit of a discussion about the international stuff. So we're going to talk about the USHL and kind of shine a light on that league, which is getting, like we've said in the past, it's getting a lot more attention lately with the Chicago Steel dominating draft boards. And they've got a few guys in that this year too. But let's first talk about some guys that weren't drafted last year or the year before or stuff like that. And they're ripping up the league right now. Let's start with the guy who's leading the USHL in scoring. He went undrafted in 2020 and 2021. Stephen Halliday plays for the Dubuque Fighting Saints, and he's got 23 goals, 61 points in 40 games. He only had 10 goals last year. Peter, what do you like about his game? And do you think someone's going to take a flyer on him this time? I mean, he's his last chance. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if let's hope that the third time is the charm for Halliday. I mean, projected from elite prospects to hit 95 points this season in 62 games. That's absolutely unreal. And we saw what Sean Farrell did last season with the Chicago Steel, just absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, you just look at his stature, 6'4", 234. That just screams NHL. Size and strength and the ability to shield the puck extremely well. Really great shot, great awareness, especially on the defensive side of the game. This is a centerman that, has the potential to, or not a centerman, a winger, who has the potential to be a factor on both sides of the ice or both sides of the puck. I think the main thing was his skating, and maybe he doesn't get the top speed. He's not the quickest guy because of that size. And, we say that, maybe sometimes it doesn't matter because we see bigger players play with a little bit more quickness and agility. And I think maybe that was holding him back. But you know what, as we're seeing with the stat line, it may not be the end all be all, but he's producing no matter what, wherever he is on the ice. So the fact that he has the mentality and the smarts to, be a great, puck distributor, puck protection skills is really great. I hope that, this is his opportunity that he's running away with to catch some teams' eyes and say, hey, you didn't take me the first 2 seasons. Now you're seeing me at my best. I hope that this is enough because he really does deserve it.
Yeah, he's been scoring at such a rate. I mean, like I said, he only had 10 goals last year. I mean, he's already at 23, and the season's not even over yet. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely lots of hockey left for Halliday. And speaking of players thriving in the USHL, Jeremy Wilmer was a name last year that probably should have been drafted. But, some teams are a little wary at the fact that he was 5'6", but this time around, he's got 53 points in 39 games with the Tri-City Storm. And as I mentioned before, definitely undersized, but you know what? His pace of play and determination is standing out. And Matt, do you think that this is enough and that he has the tools to overcome the lack of size and be drafted this year? And will teams actually take a flyer on him?
Well, I thought he should have been drafted last year. I mean, I had him in my rankings. I think at one point I had him in the third or fourth round. I mean, that's pretty high. I mean, as much as people were saying that, well, he shouldn't have been there. Yes, he's small. I mean, you can't say he's not. I mean, he's a tiny guy, but he's looking at guys like Alex DeBrincat. I mean, he's small, but he's scoring. I mean, 30, 40 goals a season he gets. So, I mean, I'm not saying Wilmer could become that type of player, but he's definitely got that type of those tools. Like I said, he's shifty. He's very creative. He's quick. Maybe if he has to be a little more, I think maybe a little more physical, and maybe get stronger to compete in the NHL. But I think, I mean, in the later rounds, 6th, 7th round, this is where you take skill and creativity. And, who cares if he doesn't pan out? Whatever, a 7th round pick doesn't usually pan out anyway. But if he does, you're over the moon for having a guy like that, and you're drafting him in the 6th, 7th round. So, I mean, as a player, I think he has the tools to do it. If a team thinks and the scouting staffs think that he can do it is the biggest thing. I mean, he may look like he can, but when you get up to the higher levels, this is where you start seeing if he can succeed. His next thing is going to be the NCAA. I'm sure that's where he's going next. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I love seeing these guys succeed. I mean, undersized guys that with their work ethic and their determination, I don't have a doubt that he'll try his hardest to do it. So I love his game. I wrote his prospect profile last year. It's probably going to get a bump in views in the next few days. But yeah, I love his game. So Wilmer is a guy to watch. Even if he doesn't get drafted, he should warrant a signing from one NHL team, I think. So yeah, that's a couple forwards. Let's talk about a defenseman. Greg, we'll go to you on this one. Jacob Guévin. He's having another great year with the Muskegon Lumberjacks. 4 goals and 37 points in 39 games. Given his modern day NHL defenseman skill set, and he's great offensively, are you surprised he went undrafted in 2021? And has he done enough this season to actually have someone draft him this year?
I was a little bit surprised he didn't go last year, but last year was such a funky year. I mean, it was it was out of the ordinary. There were a lot of guys that probably should have got drafted and didn't, just because of the situation with, lots of guys not playing at all and still getting drafted. So, as the next few years progress, we're going to realize there are a lot of guys that should have been drafted last year that didn't. There are probably a lot of guys that did get drafted last year that had no business getting drafted either. So, but I definitely think he's going to get drafted this year. As you alluded to, he is exactly what today's game wants out of their defenseman. He's only 5'11". When I say that, only 5'11", but that's not that odd anymore in today's game to get a defense, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, you'd never in a million years would have put a defenseman under 6 feet tall out on the ice. But the game's changed. It's not a game of monsters anymore. It's smaller forwards, smaller defensemen. It's about speed. It's about skill. It's about scoring. And he's got all of that. I mean, he's a very exciting offensive player on the back end. He can lead the rush. He's great at the points. He's projected to have finished the season with 51 assists in 60 games. That's pretty impressive. And the reason he's able to pick up as many assists as he has over the last 2 seasons, he had 38 assists last season in 53 games. The reason is his deception. He's so patient and deceptive with the puck, whether he's leading the rush or if he's on the point. he's just so good at taking his time and using the space and getting defenders out of position and then hitting a teammate with a great crisp pass. He's also got a pretty good wrist shot that I don't think he uses quite enough, but that will come. He's going to go to the University of Nebraska Omaha next season, and that's a really, that's a pretty good program in the NCAA. He's going to face a lot of really good players there and some tough competition. That's only going to make him better. Obviously, he's going to have to work on his defensive game, but the offensive skill is definitely exactly what NHL teams are looking for on their back end. So I have no doubt he's going to get drafted this year. As far as a round, who knows? It'll be a later round, but he's definitely one of those low risk, high reward type draft picks that can, make a GM look like a genius 3 or 4 years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's so many different smaller defensemen in the NHL now. I mean, it's looking at guys like Quinn Hughes. I mean, he's not big, but he's one of the top defensemen in the league. So that's great. So let's just quickly, we kind of talk a little bit about rounds, but let's do really quick round table. Out of these 3 guys, if you had to pick one that would be drafted, who would it be, and where do you think they would get drafted in the round? Peter, what do you think?
I not to say that I just talked about him, but I really do think that Stephen Halliday should have a really realistic chance of, getting drafted. I mean, I didn't mention this before, but I really do love his simplicity and how he approaches the game. It's very reserved, very old school. He doesn't, get caught in many situations. He thinks the game, and he just basically doesn't overcommit to anything. He's very well rounded, and I really like players like that. And considering the fact that he has been passed over twice, you don't know what you're getting with him. I think that maybe realistically, if you pick him up in the 6th round, I think that could turn into something really great for a team there who wants size, who wants the speed, who wants the vision and awareness. And, granted that the game is a little bit flashy right now, simple players with a great mindset are still very effective, and I think that maybe he can amount to something with that.
Yeah, for sure. Greg, who do you got?
Obviously the guy I just talked about, Guévin, I think he's pretty solid chance, but I also agree Halliday's got a really good shot too, because as we mentioned, as I just said, it's a smaller man's game now, but NHL teams trip over themselves to still get guys with Halliday's size. So I think that will get him a better shot at getting looked at. I think probably all 3 of these guys end up getting drafted, but Halliday might be the first off the board, because you still got a lot of old school thinkers in those scouting rooms, and that size, you can't coach that. It's there, and that's probably going to put him in an NHL pipeline.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. As much as I love Jeremy Wilmer, he probably will get drafted, but yeah, I agree. Halliday's probably going to go first. And the thing is, he's just putting his name out there more by leading these USHL in scoring. So, I mean, everyone that goes to those games see him first. So I'm sure scouts know about this guy. And we'll see if he gets drafted this year. I hope he does. So yeah, before we move on, just remind you to sign up for that Morning Skate newsletter over at morningskate.io. Great content there every day. Lots of great tidbits, stuff you can't get on the website. So definitely check that out at morningskate.io. So yeah, let's go on to our last bit of business in this episode. This year's draft. We did talk about this year's draft, undrafted. Let's talk about the guys that are going to be drafted for the first time this year. Let's just do a roundtable here. Peter, we'll start with you here. Who are you watching the most that is going to be as ready to go in the first round? This also includes the U.S. development team, because they are the USDP juniors are part of the USHL. So definitely those are in there as well. So Peter, who do you have?
Well, I have all the top USHL names from the US development team in my top 32 or my top 64 in the first round. So all the top names are there. So I was going to pick a USD P player no matter what. But I'm going to go with Jimmy Snuggerud, right winger for the development team program. Just absolutely phenomenal with his goal scoring abilities. I mean, he's just a major offensive catalyst, great size and strength, good hands. He's always looking for the puck, always wanting to get it on a stick and just get it on net. I mean, whether it's with a quick wrist shot, heavy one-timer, what have you, he's got a very durable offensive tool set to his game, and he's a massive threat right now. And just looking at his goal numbers right now, he's just tearing it up. 16 goals and 41 points in 37 games. Looking pretty good right now.
Yeah.
So I think that, out of all the first rounders, Snuggerud is definitely one of those players that has always caught my eye from the very beginning, and he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Greg, who do you have that you're looking out in the first round that's in this USHL draft class?
Well, obviously we're sticking with the development team here. I know we've talked a lot about Logan Cooley, and everybody knows about him, and Frank Nazar is another guy everybody knows about him. Cutter Gauthier is a guy. Yeah. I hope I said that right. This kid, whew, I mean,
he's good.
Besides having an awesome name, he's also a pretty awesome hockey player. I mean, he's pretty close to the complete package as you can get at this point. I mean, he's you look at his game and he is your quintessential two-way power forward in the NHL. He's got amazing skating and stick handling ability. He can shoot and pass. He can take his shot from any angle. He can set up his teammates. He's really good defensively and a physical player. He's always looking to finish his checks. Great back checker, always constantly pressuring the puck. And he's got that hockey IQ. He knows the game. He sees it on a different level. He's super smart on the ice. He's got it all. He's 200-foot game, size, physicality, can pass, can shoot. It's got the cool name. I mean, it's like this guy. I love names. I'm sorry. I love guys that have awesome hockey names, because you just imagine like Doc Emmerich's shouting out his name during a Stanley Cup final. It's fun. But all kidding aside, and this kid's a really good player. I think he gets overlooked a little bit because of some of those other guys on that team. That team is stacked. I don't know how they lost a game this year. It's pretty ridiculous. But there's a lot of good players, and he's going to be a first round pick. He might be one of those guys that falls a little lower than he should, and become one of those really great value picks, in the second half of the first round.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, there's so much in that for this first round that's from the U.S. National Development Team. I mean, this is pretty stacked class. So I'm just going to mention him again because I love this guy, Seamus Casey. Of the right-handed, there's so many good right-handed defense in this draft too. I mean, if a team's looking for right-handers, I mean, this is the one. This is the one to look at. I haven't really looked deep in the 2023 draft yet. I don't know how many are there, but I mean, this one has quite a few that could potentially be top four defensemen. And Casey's one of those guys that, I mean, I mentioned kind of Quinn Hughes comparisons. His skating is at that level. He's got great edges, great anticipation offensively. Like most defensemen, they have to, fix their defensive game. But I mean, offense is off the charts with this guy and his hockey IQ and all the superlatives you can say about his skating, and he's got them. So yeah, Casey's just a guy that you're going to find out pretty quickly that he's one of my favorites. I think you already know that. So he's going to be, I'm sure I'll write a feature on him at one point as well. So that's the first round. Let's talk about some later rounds. Who do you have that's outside of this first round that you're having an eye on that's not potentially a first round pick? Greg, we'll start with you.
I'm going to head up to a town in Chicago I'm not really allowed to say nice things about, but that's up to Green Bay, Wisconsin and the Gamblers. Ryan Greene is a center that I think is going to be a really good pick, second, third round, wherever he falls. We talked earlier about centers. This is a really skilled and creative center, good skater, plays at a fast pace. He can his edge work on his skating is fantastic. He can stop and go as he pleases. He's always reading the defense, just highly skilled, great playmaker. He's really good on one-on-one situation as well. And I think he's what you want out of a center, because he's got that pass first mentality, and he's got the vision to make plays that a lot of guys can't, but he's also got a really quick release on his shot and can score from anywhere on the ice, and plays a pretty smart defensive game. He needs some work there, but come on, let's be honest here. All these kids could use, there's a lot of guys in the NHL that need work defensively. So not a deal breaker as far as he goes, but I like Ryan Greene. I like his game a lot. And I think, as we've said, centers, you can never have too many of them in your system. So his position and his skill set will get him probably, I would had to guess late second round, maybe early third, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's a guy to watch. Peter, who do you have that's outside of that first round that you have an eye on?
I'm gonna stick with the Chicago Steel, and I'm gonna say Zam Plante. This is a player that playing he's going back and forth between the Minnesota high school scene and also with the Chicago Steel. 7 points in 17 games, but this is a player who's a really great playmaker, really great work ethic, undersized, but he doesn't let that deter him from anything. He kind of reminds me a bit of another former pick in Nick Abruzzese, who, didn't have the size, but he has the work ethic. He has the smarts. He has the playmaking abilities. And we saw that with Team USA at the Olympics and how well he's progressed and being a factor for them offensively. So he's one player that's really caught my eye. Not necessarily a second or third or fourth. I think he's going to be a really great mid-round pickup. So I'm still definitely going to keep an eye on him because he's got a lot of promise and potential right now. So I'm liking his game right now.
Yeah, he's good as well. I'm going to go with Adam Ingram. From the Youngstown Phantoms. He's kind of rated all over the place, really. He could be a second round pick, third round pick, but I think second round pick for sure. He's got 18 goals and 44 points in 36 games with the Phantoms. And this is a guy, another centerman. He's smart. He's got great hockey IQ. He's got good size at 6'2". Great playmaking, but he does need to, like we talked about defense, he needs to improve on that, his defensive game, maybe add a bit more pace to his game as well. But the thing is, like we said before, he can't teach size, and he's got the size. And I think a team is going to take him in the second, third round or whatever because of that size. And he's a centerman, and he's got those other attributes that are great down the middle. So I think Ingram's a guy that will be drafted probably in that second round range. So he's a guy I'll be watching for sure. Let's move on to a bit of just a quick roundtable here. Let's pick one player projected outside of the first round that could kind of sneak his way in. We've seen teams kind of reach down and pick guys in the later first round and thinking that, well, maybe they shouldn't be drafted and be a first round pick. Who do you have that could potentially do that, Peter?
Yeah, his name wasn't on my radar when my top 64 came out, but then when Central Scouting came out with their midterm rankings, Sam Rinzel from Chaska High, seen some time with the Waterloo Blackhawks at the USHL level, point per game with them. He's a really interesting name because obviously not on my radar before, but he's got great high-end elite level offensive vision as a blue liner, kind of similar to that of Scott Morrow last year, who is very polarizing because of his ability to jump into the rush constantly. And we're seeing that right now with Rinzel, who is that high risk, high reward kind of defenseman. And usually I'm kind of put off by that kind of play style because, you're on the fence, you should be able to play or have that mindset of knowing when to jump into the rush a little bit. But he just does everything so well, and he has this confidence to do it. He doesn't second guess himself. And every single time that he's jumping in, carrying it, in transition, or he's just going to get involved in the cycle, get involved down low and try and get a shot on net. He's always a factor, and he's always making his presence felt. And to me, obviously high risk, given his offensive tendencies. Is it enough to get him into the first round? I don't know, but he's definitely making a case to be a really solid mid-second round pick, or even higher if he continues at the pace that he's going. Then again, high school level in a first round is never really heard of. So
yeah,
to see that, and maybe if he does break through, great. But if he's going to be in that second round conversation, I would not hesitate to try and maybe take a gamble on him, because he does have a really high ceiling in his offensive potential.
Yeah. I agree definitely with that. Greg, who do you got in that could sneak into the first round?
Yeah, it's tough because as Peter said, there's always a guy where you're like, huh? But I think if there's gonna be one of those guys that maybe a reach, and get in one of those final picks of the first round, I'm gonna actually stick with the Green Bay Gamblers and a teammate of Ryan Greene, and that's Cameron Lund. He's he's also gonna play a little bit with the U18 development team as well, but he's got 15 goals, 30 points in his 41 USHL games with Green Bay this season. And that's coming off, he only had a couple games. This is really his first full season in juniors. But again, he's a centerman. He's got good size at 6'2". He can score. He can dish out assists, a lot of raw talent, a lot of work to do, but I don't know. I see his name. I see his size, his skill set, the position he plays. That could be one of those guys that, one of those last picks of the first round could say, hey, let's go for it here. When you get to that point, those teams usually, they've been in the Stanley Cup final. They won a Stanley Cup. They draft out of positional need more than best player on the board, because they can, because they've got a championship quality team already ready. So those are the teams that can kind of take those maybe project type picks. So I could see him definitely going to one of those last couple picks in the first round, or most likely somewhere in the second round. But he's definitely one I'm keeping my eyes on. I think he's an intriguing prospect with the right kind of development, could develop into a real nice kind of maybe top 9 centerman.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the defense route again, an undersized guy, Lane Hutson. I mean, he's been kind of, again, all over the place in draft boards. I mean, I believe I've seen him in the first round at some point with some rankings, but kind of a second round pick in a lot of them. So, but I mean, this is a guy that's yes, he's small, but he's sure dynamic, and he's got that skating ability that a lot of defensemen don't have. So, I mean, this is a guy that could potentially sneak into that, like you said, Greg, 29, 30 range, maybe a team kind of, maybe even a team that has a lot of first round picks. I mean, look at the Arizona Coyotes. They got picks down in that 30 range, and, to bolster position, you take a gamble on a guy that could potentially turn into a 50, 60 point guy in the NHL as a defenseman. So these are guys that don't come around very often. And again, skating is something not all these defensemen have, and that type of elite skating, even though he's a small guy, I mean, he can escape the forecheck. And that's what guys like Quinn Hughes, Hughes is bigger, but this is why they succeed, is because they can beat the forecheck. They can pass the puck before they even get hit. They can make a quick move and a quick pivot, and all of a sudden they're gone. And a guy's trying to forecheck them, they're gone already. So this is an invaluable skill to have on your back end. And there's a lot of teams that would love to have more than just one. Like, I'm sure Colorado wants more than one Makar on their back end. So not every defenseman gets that level, but to have someone that can move the puck and beat the forecheck is just, it's so big in this league right now. And Hutson can definitely be a guy that can be that type of defenseman. So he's my pick. So before we get to our prospects of the week, I just want to do a quick bonus roundtable and talk about a draft that we have not we've talked about, obviously, is the 2023 draft, which is going to be loaded and stacked, and whatever word you want to say in this, is that there's a guy on him that plays in the USHL, was Clark Cup winner, playoff MVP at 16 years old. And I think you probably tell who I'm talking about is Adam Fantilli. Is he the Connor Bedard of the USHL right now? He's got 24 goals, 43 points in 35 games as a 17-year-old. He had 8 goals in 8 playoff games last, and he was 16. So, Greg, what do you think? Is he a Connor Bedard type? I mean, in this stat draft?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to put a guy at that level, but what he's doing is right there. He's scoring those highlight reel goals. He's making the plays that very few people can make, especially for a kid his age. I mean, I got to see him a couple times last year. I was luckily able to go out to a couple of Chicago Steel games once they allowed fans, and was at one of those Clark Cup final games, the opening game of the series. And, he was a little overshadowed last year because, I mean, you just look at the guys that they had on their team. Sean Farrell, of course, we said he set the league record, and, Sam Muskevich and all those guys, they had just a stacked team. And so he was kind of like the guy that you didn't really game plan for because they had so much other, and he was allowed to have matchups against lower, bottom 6 and took advantage of it. Now he's the guy you have to focus on. He's even doing better. I mean, the kid's great. That top 3 or 4 picks in 2023 are going to be very interesting to see how it shakes down. I mean, everybody automatically assumes Connor Bedard, but I don't know, man. There's some debates for sure. And this kid is going to be part of that debate. He's an exciting player for sure.
Peter, Adam Fantilli, Connor Bedard, what do you think?
I think we could all agree that the top 3, no matter what the position is, going to be Bedard, Michkov, Fantilli, because that just screams top 3 right there. And I think Fantilli with his play is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, his offensive production, vision, awareness matches that of Bedard and Michkov. So for me, he's going to be in that top 3 no matter what. But yeah, kind of what Greg said. For him to be sort of that at that younger level and playing to the level that he's at is absolutely phenomenal. And even going back to the OHL Cup, when his Toronto Red Wings went up against the powerhouse team with the Don Mill Flyers with Shane Wright, Brendan Othman, and Brant Clark, he looked absolutely phenomenal. And he had, a really great team with Francesco Pinelli, Luca Del Belbalus, who's also up for this draft class. They were really great. And Fantilli had 7 points in 6 games, and he didn't look out of place at all, being, another, a younger player on a very veteran or, a team that's, stacked with a lot of talented 16-year-old players. And he's just showing that no matter at what level he's at, he's going to produce and he's going to be the best player. And for him to draw that comparison of being the Connor Bedard of the USHL is very fair, because he has everything that you want in a prospect, and especially in a centerman. So yeah, nothing else to say, because I'm just going to be repeating or myself and with Greg, because hey, Adam Fantilli, just remember his name, because he's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I echo both. I mean, I love this guy. I mean, what he did and at 16 for a team. I mean, yes, he was overshadowed a bit, but like Greg said, this year he's the guy and he's doing it still. So, I mean, I think this guy's the real deal. I think that's what he's done. I mean, top 3, I mean, definitely. We'll see where teams go. I think Bedard's first overall for sure. Michkov, I mean, this is ridiculous. The 2023 draft is just crazy to talk about. I think any team that is looking to trade big guys at this deadline, try to get 2023 picks, just saying. First round picks preferably, but I think some teams shouldn't even trade those. They should be keeping those tight to the vest, but there will be picks moved, I'm sure. That happens all the time. So yeah, that's we'll be talking about Fantilli, I'm sure, a lot more next season as well, and this season too. So let's go to the last part of our show, prospects of the week. Peter, we'll start with you. who is your prospect of the week?
Talked about him at the top of the show. You know what's coming. I'm going with Juraj Slafkovsky. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. Again, what he was able to do at the Olympics. I mean, you hear about like all these like senior players coming out and just putting on a clinic and a show. And the fact that there were no NHLers this year, you could argue that the competition wasn't great, but you know what? It was still entertaining hockey. It was close. It was, still best on best for this level. Yeah. And you know what? Being 17 years old, whether it was against NHL players or not, Slafkovsky rose to the occasion and he showed why he's a top prospect in 2022. He just absolutely lit the tournament up, and I'm just absolutely proud of that. So yeah, I could explain why, but just rewind back to the beginning of the show on why Juraj Slafkovsky is my player of the week.
Repeat. Say Peter put it in caps in our outline here.
Repeat. So. Yeah. So you know how impressive or how happy I was.
Yeah. Greg, who you guys your prospect of the week?
I'm going to actually head up to the Q, not a league. I'm going to be the first to admit, not a league I see a lot of hockey in, but a name that's been jumping off the page for me when I check stuff out is William Dufour, who's tearing it up for the St. John Sea Dogs. He's a 5th round pick of the New York Islanders. This kid has been progressing. If you just look at his stats over his career, he just keeps getting better and better. He's jumped around the league, played for a few different teams. But his scoring numbers just keep going. And this year, he's a 20-year-old. So that's exactly what you would expect out of a 20-year-old in a junior league. But, he's got 28 goals, 31 points, or 31 assists for 59 points in just 34 games this season. He's been tearing it up lately. He's got, in his last 10 games, he has 9 goals, 18 points. Since November 1st, he's been held pointless once. I mean, it's just crazy what he's doing. I know the Q is a league that, it's not known for its defensive prowess. It's known for big offensive numbers, but still, I mean, if there's one team that needs an influx of young, talented offensive minded players, it's the New York Islanders. I don't know if he's going to be, a top 6 guy down the road, but he's definitely ready to turn pro. And I think he'll get to the AHL next season and we'll see what he can do. He's 6'3", over 200 pounds. So he's got the NHL frame. If he can get the skating down and handle the speed of the pro game, he could be a really nice late round addition for the Islanders. So William Dufour, he's been really good.
Yeah, our 5th round pick too. That's pretty good. So we'll see what his future holds. Well, I'm going to go to the 2023 draft again and go with a Matthew as well. This is Matthew Wood. I mean, there's another guy, talk about highlight reel, talk about high-end skill. He's doing it. 6'3", 185. He is in the realm of like Paul Correa type numbers in the BCHL. Yes, it's a lower league. He's playing for the Victoria Grizzlies. He's got 34 goals already in 33 games. He just had an amazing between the legs goal, deked around one guy and then put it between the legs. I mean, yes, it's against lower competition. Yes, it's a junior league, but just to do that, I mean, at any level is amazing. And to be able to have the confidence to do it. And that's just, he caught my eye doing that. And then looking deeper into him, this guy has a NHL future. I mean, I think he could be a top 10 pick just early on here. He's got size. He's got this creativity. The biggest thing is that size. I mean, to have that, a lot of teams are going to take notice already. I mean, I've heard from different scouting reports that he does his skating still needs to be worked on, but that's something can be worked on. Just having that skill in the hockey IQ and the scoring ability. This guy just loves to score. I mean, he doesn't stop. I mean, he's got 8 goals in his last 10 games, 19 points in the last 10, 4 goals in his last 5. I mean, this guy, and he's just in Victoria here. So I should be watching more of him, I think. So he's going to be on my radar for the 2023 draft and could potentially be playing with Connor Bedard next year, but sounding like he wants to go the NCAA route. So, I mean, not next year, whenever he can play in the Dub. I don't think he's going there, but he's committed to the University of Connecticut in 2023-24. So, and he seems committed to do that NCAA route because pretty smart kid. I found a recruiting thing on saying he has like a over 4 GPA. So I think he's pretty smart. So I think he wants to go to university. So Matthew Wood, my prospect of the week. So yeah, he's an impressive guy. So that's the end of another episode. Before we go, I just want to have a little bit of a sad note. Greg's leaving the show, unfortunately. He's got a great opportunity elsewhere, and we wish you all the best, Greg. Great to have you on Prospect Corner on the site for the last time. I mean, all the time I've been here, you've been here. So it's, I don't want to cry, but it's, I know you're probably gonna be back on the show as guest, but thanks, Greg, for all you've done for the show, for the site. Sad to see you go.
No, I appreciate that. It's bittersweet for sure. I'm really going to miss the THW family, and I call it a family because for the 3.5 years I've been associated with this site, it's, this site has had my back during the worst times of my life, and now I'm heading in possibly and hopefully the best times of my life, and it wouldn't have been possible without the experience and the just overall experience here at THW. I've become a better writer, a better person. I've had the opportunity to work with some great writers, yourselves, and people that I now consider friends that I'll be fans of going forward. I'm super proud of what we've accomplished together on this show, and I know you guys are going to keep it rolling and take it to new heights and great places with all the great stuff coming up. And as you mentioned, I'm looking forward. I won't be a weekly panelist, but I'll definitely come back and be a guest anytime you guys want to talk some hockey, talk some Blackhawks prospects. I'm all on board. It's been great, and I appreciate the shout out, and I'm definitely gonna miss it here, but exciting things ahead as well.
Great person, great writer, and even a better pro at everything that you do, Greg. Thank you for everything. And it was a real pleasure to call you a colleague over here at THW. I'm really going to miss you because you were absolutely one of the first people that I came in contact with when I first joined, to talk with you, Andrew, Josh, everybody else. I wish you nothing but the best, buddy.
I appreciate that. I'll be supporting you guys in this site forever. No doubt about it. You guys won't get rid of me so quickly. May not be on the site or the show as often, but I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, you've got a locker stall, Prospect Corner here, so I
appreciate it.
Jersey's going to the rafters.
Yeah, that's right. Anytime we're talking Chicago Blackhawks prospects, you're on the show. So
all right. Hopefully they get some exciting ones worth talking about here in the next couple of years. Right now, there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah, well, hopefully this draft changes that. So that's the end of another episode. We'll be back next week for sure. Talking prospects. Before we go, just make sure you're signed up for that Morning Skate newsletter. Lots of great news coming out, trade deadline, draft coverage, all this great stuff on the site, and World Juniors as well. Olympic coverage just wrapped up as well. So make sure you're checking that out and checking out all of our work on thehockeywriters.com. For Greg, and Peter, this is Matthew, and we'll see you next time on the Prospect Corner.